There we go. All right. So, so basically talking about proximity. If, basically a lot of people try to treat every single lead exactly the same. And the challenge is basically when you do that, you miss opportunities, not because you're doing it on purpose, because you're doing it because you might not know better, or basically you might just think every opportunity is exactly the same. But, in a buying cycle, people have different things. What we do when we get a proximity or an event lead, again, you're taking somebody that is planning on being in the market, probably to the point where somebody would call off our direct mail, see us on the television, hear us on the radio, see us on the internet. And those people are already ready to move forward on something. So they send in their submission ticket and they're good to go. So when we deal with the proximity and events, they're still there, but they're, if they fast forward at 6 months to a year, they're going to be in that same position, maybe sometimes even 2 years, sometimes 3. You never know. But what the nice thing about that is we're catching them in their buying cycle, basically months, if not weeks, before they basically are ever going to be in the position to make that decision. So we get the first opportunity, first shot, and making sure that we get to educate them the way we want to. They're going to be more open to listen because they're interested for when it comes time. They're going to basically be able to make a spur of the moment decision because, so let's face it, they let you as a stranger, they let a kid knocking on a door that makes $15 an hour basically talk them into letting you inside the door. So there's an instance where you got to think about it. You got to take these leads for what they are, because these leads are very valuable, right? And when you get somebody that, number one, make a snap decision. Number two, is in the buying cycle, we catch them early enough into it that we still have a lot of influence, right? It's not like they've had 6 or 7 different estimates and are sick and tired of hearing this thing. They got your full attention. It's just now, how do we relate that attention, right? Seeing how we catch them so early in the buying cycle, rather than basically they might not have just called because they're ready to do something now. Again, remember, it's 6 months to a year to 2 years down the road, we're catching them. So how we treat this appointment is going to be completely different. Your mindset coming into this has to be different than it ever's been. Because if you're going in there thinking that, hey, I'm going to give my initial visit speech or my, cost savings program speech, and the second they tell me, well, we're not really interested in anything today, we're not going to buy anything today, I don't care really what you say. If you take that for the grain of, if you take that basically to your heart, and then you take that personally, you're not going to close that, because you're going to start justifying at that time why they're not buying forward, and you're selling yourself on your excuse already, right? Well, they told me in the very beginning they're not buying, so when they said at the end, it didn't surprise me, right? Well, you can't think that way. You have to basically open your mind up, because the presentation is designed to create the need, create the urgency, and create the yes. So getting a no up front, that shouldn't bug you at all. That should just brush off your shoulder. That's salt. That's salt. There's nothing to worry about. So we just have to walk in that house immediately. If they catch us at the door and said, yeah, I don't really even know why I set this appointment, because I'm not probably going to be doing anything for a couple of years anyways. You need to just shut your mouth and listen, and not think about, oh my God, this guy's not buying it anyways. How quick can I get in and out of this appointment? That's the absolute wrong mindset, right? There's businesses that do $900 million a year based on this exact type of lead, because they know how to handle it correctly, right? The big thing, the difference is, it's not that you're not great at what you do. Everybody's really good at what we do. But the problem is, if we don't know how to handle it correctly, we shoot ourselves in the foot and are less effective than we need to be, because our brain outsmarts our wit, outsmarts our charm, outsmarts our presentation, because we start finding the reasons why. Remember, 8 11 receptors of the brain are based off fear, 3 are based off gain. It works the same way with you. So again, if I'm looking at fear, this person told me no, so it's a no, right? Or this person told me they're not interested in buying, there's nothing I'm going to do to change your brain today. If you take that as the gospel, you're dead. You might as well just pack your stuff up, leave, and go home and wait to see them 6 months to a year from now, because you're not going to be successful in that mindset. So when you walk in, if somebody hits you at the door with that, I'm not buying anything today, I don't even really know why I set an appointment. My wife set this appointment, and I really wouldn't have allowed her to set it if I'd have known any different, or my husband set that appointment, I wouldn't have let him set it if I'd have known any different. Then those type of things right through there, again, can kill you in the beginning of the appointment and force you to be unsuccessful. So first off, you got to forget all the things that you understand, all the things you feel like you know, and you got to take that, you got to table that big pile of stuff, that book of information, and you need to set it aside because it's not important. Okay? Let me repeat that. You take that book of information that you know and you've always felt, and you've been doing this for so many years that you're so good that you don't know what you don't know. So we're going to take that and we're going to set it off to the side. Next, embrace it. If somebody tells you that they're not going to buy anything today, or they tell you that they don't even know why they set the appointment, and they probably don't even need windows, they're not in a position where they can even buy windows right now. Well, great. So you need to address that and say, John and Mary, hey, I get it. We look at basically the instance here. They shared with me on the phone. It looks like it says right here on the notes that you weren't buying anything today anyways. They said you're just trying to get an idea for when it came time to do the project. Is that correct? Well, great. So again, the last thing I'm going to do is ask you for your business today, which might be true. But the last thing I'm going to do is ask for your business today because they told me you're not ready. They told me you're just trying to get an idea for when it did come time, and that's correct. Would you agree with that? Yes. So again, there's no pressure on that. Then we're just trying to educate you to see if you even need windows and what you want and see if we can even help first, okay? Secondly, can I sit down and ask a few questions about why you even think I'm here? And then get them to a point where you can sit down. On this type of customer, a warm-up is kind of important, right? Getting them to be just real is going to be important because they're going to be shut off and basically pushing you back throughout that whole situation if you don't basically disengage them, disarm them, right? So if we're not talking about family, occupation, recreation, my purpose, getting to know them, are you from San Diego originally or did you move here, right? Trying to find that common bond, that connection, and that warm-up to break the ice and get everybody to the point where they're just people. So when you're going to inspect, they're going to be open-minded. When you're going to inspect, they're not going to be shut off. When you go to inspect, they're not going to be fighting you back. Hopefully that makes sense, right? Before you go inspect, though, remember that little thing we talked about, cost savings program I put out. It says if you give the cost savings program after the inspection, you become high pressure. If you give it before the inspection, you're educational. So when you say that now, you need to add a couple words before it, right? So obviously we all know, because I've said it 8,000 times, that on a proximity event leads, we use the word when it comes time in the place of basically, would you agree these windows need to be replaced? When it comes time, it's probably not a matter of if you're going to get these windows replaced, just a matter of when you're going to get it replaced. Sounds like to me, it's just about when it's affordable. Is that correct? Great. So 6 months from now, a year from now, you'll be ready, and we know that they definitely need to be replaced at that time, right? So when we get into that, you got to alleviate some of that pressure, but you still got to bring the pain. They got to understand why. So your beginning discovery phase, when I get done warming up before I go to inspection, I need to ask the question. I need to ask it this exact way. So if you're paying attention to anything today, this first thing I'm sharing with you will set you up for success. Let me repeat. This will set you up for success, and I promise you. After you break down, number one, once I disengage them, say, they told me, it shows right here, they told me you're not buying it today anyways. You're just trying to get an idea for when it did come time to the project. That's correct, right? Yes, that's a pressure release. That's kind of like walking into the white and saying, hey, I know I'm a salesperson told proven innocent. If I do anything today that makes you feel uncomfortable, please let me know. It's a disengagement, right? You're taking them down and you're not making them feel uncomfortable. If you're trying to push them into making a decision to buy today when you first walk in the door before you get into inspection, it's not going to happen. They're going to fight you, and then when it gets down to the end, they're going to be so worried about fighting you and telling you no, they're not going to be able to listen. They're not going to be able to understand what you're trying to accomplish because they're too busy on figuring out how to wiggle out of it. So you got to let them wiggle out early in their mind, and then we pull them back in slowly as the presentation comes. Hopefully that makes sense. So next, before we get into, after we get done with our warm-up, right? Talking about John and Mary, hey, beautiful house, only owned it for 8 years. Well, it's fantastic, 8 years. Man, so it looks like to me it's going to take us some time not to get you out of here. Is that correct? So we're getting all those future things that could bite us in the tail in the beginning. We'll just, after you're done, what do you like to do for fun, recreation, golf, whatever it might be, find your shrine, all the same stuff as we normally do. Before you get into your cost savings program, Mark Lance is here. Before we get our cost savings program, we want to ask this, and we want to stage this before it, right? Guys, hey, just to let you know how we normally do our appointments. A lot of our customers call in from basically the direct mail, television, newspaper, see us on the internet. Most people we deal with already buy on the first day, and we're used to that, right? But we give people in your situation, which weren't ready to make a decision today, aren't ready to make a decision anytime soon, the same opportunity we give everybody else, right? So today we're going to give you 3 investments. We're going to give you is good for a year from today's date. That's just protects from price increases and any unforeseen circumstances. Secondly is, our promotional discount. Looks like to me, you didn't really see that, but I did have one right through here that's good to the end of the month, which I know you're probably not invested in anyways. And there is also something we call a cost savings program, right? Several years ago, we hired an efficiency expert, yada, 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 right? So we're going through our cost savings program, but you got to say it is we're giving you guys the same opportunity that we give our traditional media customers. Even though you're not ready to make a decision today, we're still giving you that permission to take advantage of that if you feel like you needed to. Well, we're not going to do that. And I understand. I just wanted to share that with you. As long as that makes sense, we can move on. Is that okay? Yes. So what you're doing is you're leaving the pressure, but you're letting them know there's a sweeter pot at the end of the project if you handle it right. But all that first part right through there sounds like not that much, but that is crucial to making sure that you set this appointment up for success throughout the long term. So again, walking into it, disarming statement, it looks like to me, John and Mary, that you told me you're not buying in today anyways. You told me you're just trying to get an idea for when it did come time to do the project. That's correct, right? Yes, boom. Alleviate that. Don't fight them back. If you fight them back here, you're stupid. And I don't mean that bad. It just means you don't know what you don't know, right? So when you take that, we got to make sure we understand what their why is. Because remember, we don't want them fighting us the entire time to get down the end. They're so well prepared to tell us no that there's no taking them off. So don't let them prepare the entire appointment on how to tell you no, so there's no getting around it. Next, after we do that, we need to warm up with the customer, right? We need to talk about family, occupation, recreation, my purpose, get to know them, right? Because generally a red isn't going to let you inside the house. They're going to be no, right? Most people are going to be your blues, your yellows, your whites, are basically the three big things through here. And it's okay to sit down with them in this setting and warm up a little bit and get to know them, because we want to get them to, again, be a real person before we take them on the inspection. Next, when we go on the inspection and we talk about our cost savings program, we want to make sure, we want to make sure that literally we explain to them, we're giving them the same opportunity that we give all our traditional media customers, even though you're not ready to make a decision today. And then we explain that cost savings program the same way that we explain it to everybody, but we add that little line. We're going to give you the same opportunity that we give everybody today, even knowing you're not ready to make a decision. Because again, we want to let them know at the end of it, there is a little sweeter pot, right? Now, when we go on the inspection, this is where we need to fill up before we pour out a little bit, right? This customer generally isn't going to come to you and tell you, isn't generally going to tell you that somebody's got their mic on, I guess. I don't really know. Well, generally isn't going to tell you that what's wrong with their windows. A lot of times they might not know, right? A lot of times they're not going to tell you about certain aspects of their windows because they probably weren't staring at their windows overly before they went. They're probably the type of customer that shut their blinds down and then literally don't even pay attention to them. They probably ignored the problems, even though they probably needed to be done. And it's easier to buy, $200-300, blackout shades. It's easier to buy basically blinds to set in front of the window. It's easier to ignore the problem that's existing because maybe they don't feel like they got the funds to do it. Maybe they don't know that you offer easy budget programs or no interest programs or things like that that are basically done. Later, we'll talk about those programs, but right now we don't need to. So the next piece of it is we want to talk about the things that we can control, right? So on an inspection, we really need to figure out some of the whys. Earlier when we talk about look at the windows, talking about at this point infiltration, which is an air leak, right? If you take your finger, you rub it on the seal of the window and you see dust on it, that's a good indication there's an air leak, right? You take, for instance, in San Diego, and you say there's about a 10 or 15 mile an hour wind here, even if it's 5 or 10 mile an hour wind, and you talk about it running into it, right? What's carried in the wind? You got dust, you got pollen, you've got basically dirt that's carried inside the air, right? So when you think about a window, you think about aluminum, right? And you think about glass. Those are two of the best conductors known to man. So we have to get into the part where we're inspecting windows to let them know what's existing in the house and why that's an issue. Because if we don't let this customer know what's existing in their house and why it's an issue, maybe they haven't paid attention enough for it to be that big of a deal, right? So if we know that aluminum windows, which are glass and aluminum, right, two of the best conductors known to man, we'll talk about in a second, have no weather stripping, right? So if I have no weather stripping and I have a 16th inch gap around a normal 3x5 foot window, it's bringing dust inside the seal of the window, and I put my finger on there showing them how the dust is on the seal, that's the equivalent. That 1/16th inch gap is the equivalent of a 12 square inch hole leading directly to the outdoors of the home. If that leads directly outdoors of the home and you can look right through your wall back there and see the neighbor's house, how long would it take you to fix it? Probably right away, right? Why do you think that's a problem? Because I'm losing all my energy out the window and out the door. Well, I bet you in a house like this, what do you pay? $800 to $1,200 a month for utilities? No, not that much. Probably $400 or $500. I watched Dan execute that perfectly the other day, and it worked great. He got the real number at $500, not $100 or $200, because you asked the question, how much you pay for utilities? Well, probably $100, $200. Remember, they're not going to give you the truth. They're going to give you a false answer because they don't want to unleash their pressure. It's like somebody that's got big problems, right? Time out. It's like somebody that's got big problems. They tell you, hey, what's going on, man? No, everything's great, buddy. Everything's great. Nothing's wrong with me, man. I'm good. Right? So you're not going to pull that out unless you ask the right questions. So again, that 16th inch gap around a 3x5 foot window is the equivalent of a 12 square inch hole leading directly outdoors, John and Mary. If I told you, you looked right outside your door, how long would it take you to fix it? We'd do it right away. Well, do you understand why that's affecting you in your house and why we talk about that? Well, no. Well, if you take a thermostat, right? What do you keep your thermostat set on? 68 to 70? Yeah, just about right through there. Okay. So if it's 85 degrees outside right now, or if you're in the inlands, it's 9 degrees outside, and you basically have a 1 or 2 mile-an-hour wind coming in, which is enough to carry the dust in, but maybe not enough to fill. What's that doing to the temperature by your window? Do you think it's increasing it, or do you think it's keeping it exactly 68 to 70? Well, it's probably getting a little bit hotter. Well, absolutely, right? So that 16th inch gap that's bringing enough air in to bring the dust on my seal. If I take your thermostat 68 to 70, it reads 85 degrees by the window. What's that telling your air conditioner to do? Kick on. So it takes the temperature back down to 68 to 70. Then what does it do? It shuts off. Let me ask you a question. Do you ever hear the on and off happening inside the house? Now let me ask you, do you think that's saving you money or costing you money? And they'll tell you 100%. I guarantee it's costing me money. Absolutely, because that's, a heating and air conditioning unit, if you look at your circuit box, works off 2 of those, which is what they call a 220. That takes a lot of energy to start and stop that thing. Not to mention, I'm sure you didn't put in your budget the cost of a new heating and air conditioning system, right? Because those things nowadays, man, they're what, 20, 30 grand, 10, 15 grand? I don't really know. But if you haven't set that money aside for it, you want to kind of save the life of it so you're not having to replace that thing again in the future too, right? Let me ask you a question. Every month when you pull out your furnace filter, what color is your furnace filter? Is it like gleaming white, or is it more of like a grayish dark color? What's kind of a grayish dark color? Great. So where do you think all that dust and pollen's coming from? Well, probably the windows. I think you're right. Let me ask you, do you understand how air infiltration is affecting you in your house? Yes. Second's conduction, right? We got 2 of the best conductors known to man sitting right there in your window that's helped trying to keep you comfortable inside the house, right? Think about glass. Glass is one of the best conductors known to man, right? It's made of water and silica sand, right? So if I take glass bowl by itself, right, and I put cheese dip in the microwave, I always give an analogy because I want them to understand it, right? If I just talk all about windows, it's going to be boring. I'm going to be talking about things they don't fully understand. But most people had put cheese dip. Man, I tell you what, that, on like football days, I love taking some bean dip. I take some cheese dip and I mix it together. And I take that and I take that white bowl. I put that thing in the microwave, that glass bowl. And I put it in there for 2 minutes because I want it to be piping hot. And I take that bowl out and I try to touch it. It's too hot for me to touch, right? But then basically, if I grab my towel, I can grab my towel and I take it off and I set it down the table after it's burning my fingers through the towel, right? But then I grab that first chip and I dip that chip in there and bite it. It's cold in the middle. Why does that happen? because the glass is radiating the heat around the outside of the bowl. So it's conducting the heat to the outside of the bowl, not the liquid. So it's telling me that all that conduction is happening in the glass. So kind of like this too, right? You ever gone down, because one of the big reasons I even tell you that is hot is attracted to cold, right? Hot is attracted to cold. So it doesn't matter if it's summer or winter. If I'm keeping it 80 degrees inside my house and it's 50 degrees outside, 55 degrees outside, the heat in my house is going to be traveling towards that conductor, which is what's trying to get out to the cold weather. So again, if I'm trying to keep it inside my house, and I use this analogy, right? This isn't even talking about aluminum. This is just glass itself. So if I'm taking basically a window that looks like it has no problems, no issues, but yet I'm out there to solve something, it's probably energy efficiency. So if I take glass, now the funny thing is I love IHOP. It's one of the reason why I can't get rid of this muffin top very easy, because I love IHOP. Man, it's so good. Like International House of Pancakes, you take a hot cup of coffee. I always get coffee because I like to eat coffee with my eggs or pancakes or whatever I do in that coffee. When I set that coffee down, steam's generally rising out of that coffee and it's piping hot, right? So you got to sip it because it's too hot. So what happens is they always bring down a glass of ice water and they set it down next to the coffee. And that glass of ice water sets down next to the coffee. One of the things I notice immediately is suddenly I got to start grabbing my napkin. I got to start patting around that glass of ice water. And I'm like, man, what? There's condensation all on the outside of it. So one of the reasons why I sat there and looked at it one day and I was like, God, I got to solve this mystery. This is just driving me insane. How can people day after day have their glass of ice water sitting next to their coffee and then have to sit there and almost be the waitress or waiter sitting there patting up all that water? Well, I figured out when hot's attracted to cold, right? That steam, if you watch the steam come up, actually starts beelining towards that cold glass of water. Because again, hot is attracted to cold. So therefore it's creating condensation because the warm is conducting to the cold. Therefore it's creating condensation on the outside of the glass, which is allowing basically all my heat to escape my coffee and head towards that cold glass of water, right? So now my coffee becomes lukewarm, not because my coffee is just bad or basically the utensil it's in bad, because it's conducting all my heat away. It's kind of like if you've ever been in a cold weather climate. You walk outside your house and you got your coat bundled on. Let's say you don't have your coat zipped, but you see when it's freezing cold weather outside and you open your mouth, you see steam leave your mouth, right? That's actually the heat leaving your body. But if you think about your house, kind of like your body, right? And I got that glass sitting there and I'm trying to keep it comfortable inside my house, or whether it's cold or hot. And I got my glass of ice water either inside the house or outside the house, and my hot cup of coffee is on the other side of it, right? So I'm trying to keep it warm right now and say it's 55 degrees outside. If it's basically 55 degrees outside and I got my cup of coffee here and I've got my glass and my aluminum setting here as far as the window goes, and that basically steam is beelining towards that glass of ice water, do you think my windows are helping me save energy or losing it? Because again, all that heat is being conducted towards that conductor, which is glass and number two aluminum, right? And it's being drawn towards that cold glass of water. So again, when that heat is trying to leave outside of that window, because again, hot's trying to make it to cold, which is just naturally what it does, just like your house, just like your body, then basically that's helping me lose energy, not keep it inside the house. Therefore, can my furnace or an air conditioner, if I ever turn my thermostat down or up enough, is it ever going to be enough to make a difference in the temperature outside? If it's 55 degrees outside, can I turn my thermostat up enough to warm the exterior that's going to stop it from trying to make it to the interior? Probably not. So again, if you think about that, if you look at conduction and condensation on a window, or you look down in the bottom right-hand corner where the window goes on the drywall, see if there's any drywall marks or condensation happening on the drywall itself, that's been conducting. So just like your glass of ice water and your hot cup of coffee, steaming and all that condensation isn't going to stay in one spot, is it? It's going to roll down the window until it becomes in a warm, moist, dark area, which is stuck in between the drywall and the existing window, and it's going to start to rot that out. So again, can you see how conduction affects you in your house, right? Next thing, you got one vent sitting in this whole room, right? One vent sitting in this whole room with that gigantic door or those windows that are setting through there. If you got warm air or cold air coming out of that vent, what's going to be attracted to it? Probably the stuff by the windows or doors, right? So let me ask you, so when you got all that hot or cold beelining towards basically that one vent, do you think that one vent is enough right now with the windows and doors, the condition they are, to fight off Mother Nature outside? Probably not. So again, can you see how convection is affecting you inside your house? Next, let's talk about solar heat gain, right? I bet you these shades stay blind when there's certain times of day. Is there a certain side of the house that gets beat with the sun more than another? Is there a certain side of the house that gets beat with the sun more than another? Most of them are going to say, yeah, that side of the house right there in the middle of the afternoon gets blazing hot. When did you first notice that? Several years ago. How did it make you feel the first time you felt it? Horrible. What did you do to try to combat it? Well, I put a blind over it, or I put basically shades over it. Well, great. Didn't that worked? Yeah, it worked pretty good. But can you look out of the window in that time frame? No. So what you're telling me is it pretty makes that room, if you didn't have the blind shut, unusable. Is that correct? Great. Do you think windows are meant to have blinds over it to take care of that, almost like a Band-Aid? Probably not. Now, do you think basically on the other thing, as far as infiltration, conduction, even convection, do you think even a blind's going to help you take care of that permanently? No. What about a plantation shutter? No. Well, plantation shutter is about a $1,200 to $2,000 Band-Aid that they put on side of there to take care of one problem, but they're almost creating another. Because you take condensation that happens when you cut off air source. It's like bay windows, right? Take a bay window and I shut the blind on a bay window. So I've got these big drapes, big curtains. If I shut that curtain on my window and basically no air can now get to that, that's going to condensate like crazy in between it because now there's no airflow. It's kind of like if you shut the air conditioning off or heat off to a room and basically you'll walk in, there's condensation all covered on the windows inside that room, especially early in the morning or late in the evening, because now no airflow can get into that room. The same thing happens where now you're creating a lot of condensation and moisture. Same thing can happen in between those plantation shutters and the existing window. So if you don't open the plantation shutters up when you're inspecting a window and look deeply down on the bottom left or bottom right hand of the corner trying to find mold and different things like that happening, destruction happening to basically the drywall inside of it, you're not doing a very good job inspecting. So now, say we do find, and they do tell you that that heat is coming through the back of the house like crazy, right? Later on down the road, you probably need to take your basically heat lamp and take it back outside on that area and plug it outside and make them feel it through it. Is this what it feels like? Yeah, if not worse. Okay, so great. So this is kind of what we want to replicate, what we want to take care of, right? So when you go in there and you show your window, you're showing contrast and comparison, right? So when you're building urgency, you're building need. You know, if you found out earlier how much they pay for the utility bills, you ask $800 to $1,200, they tell you the truth that $400 to $600 a month. Now you've got something to use, right? Because you got to show them how these windows are paying for themselves, and they're already paying for them right now. If you can't show them how they're already paying for their windows right now, all you are is a feel good. You're concentrating on 3%, right? The 3 receptors of the brain, not the 8. The 8 receptors of this are really freaking important, really important. So when you're taking that and you're talking about that solar heat gain coming in, right? Not to mention not just the heat that's coming in, but what's it doing to the floor? What's it doing to the drapes? What's it doing to the carpet? What's it doing to basically the basically furniture that's sitting by it? Is it fading it from the UV rays? Is it destruction, dissatisfaction? Have they had to put a carpet on it because now the colors change? Have you moved a carpet back or basically a mat back to look and see if basically it's sun faded? Are you doing all those things? Because guess what? That's what professionals do. That's what successful reps do on that type of appointment because you have to. And I tell you what, it's not a bad idea to do it on every appointment because you're going to get their attention like crazy. And if you treat every appointment the way I'm teaching you right now, I guarantee you your success will raise dramatically because people don't understand why. They think they need windows because they're supposed to get them and they're supposed to save me on utilities, right? But if I don't have any argon gas or my coatings aren't on there or I use the wrong type of material, I've almost put myself backwards before I've done forwards, right? So again, I need to get them to commit that they understand how all those things are affecting them inside the house, right? And how it's costing them money on the utility bill. Because there's no way you're going to turn your air conditioner or furnace up and down or up enough to make a difference on the outside. We know that small little air leak leaking in is enough to make their furnace go on and off, which is costing them crazy amounts of money, right? To the point where they're paying for their house $400 to $600 a month or whatever they shared with they're paying a month because you got the truth out of them and not a fabricated lie because you didn't ask the right question. So you got to make sure, again, we're taking all these things in effect and they understand how this kills them, because later when we show the window, now we got to show how we're solving this stuff, right? So it sounds like to me, John and Mary, with all the problems coming in here, you've done everything that you could think of to do something to take care of it, right? Sounds like to me that you've kind of given up trying to fix it for you start, or where would you even start? I wouldn't even know where to start. So it sounds like to me you've given up trying for you even start. Is that correct? Yeah, I don't know, but you agree, when it comes time, these windows definitely need to be replaced, right? When it comes time? Yes. And it sounds like to me that the big timing thing is money. Is that correct? Yes. But can you see how you're already kind of paying for your windows now? Yeah, I guess I can. Well, great. Let's go ahead and sit down and talk a little about the window or the company and share you a little about the process and materials and things like that are available for you when it comes time. But the important thing is we know why you even need windows. And I think we'd agree, if not now, sometime in the future, you're definitely going to have to get this project done. Is that correct? Yes. Cool. Now I can move on to the company, right? Now on the company side of it, as I sat back down and said, guys, obviously remodeling industry is horrible. I don't know if you've heard about it or seen stuff on the news. I mean, Channel 5, they've got something called 5 on Your Side where they're watching, or whatever it is, where they're watching basically and giving you reports on contractors that run off with people's money, that rifle through people's underwear drawers, that are sitting there trying to take their belongings, that are like doing all kinds of crazy things they shouldn't be doing in houses. And unfortunately, in our industry, that happens more times than not. So who do you really want to trust coming inside your house in today's day and age where there's more crazy people out there basically doing construction on people's houses than there are normal? Matter of fact, there's more people out there today that want work done than there are quality contractors out there that actually can do it. So when you look at this aspect, it's very important you trust the right company that's going to come inside the house, because whether you're an elderly old person, you're a target. Whether you're a single female, you're a target. Whether basically you're a homeowner and basically going to get a project like this done, you could be a target too. So how do you eliminate and basically minimize the risk and fear when you're going to choose a home improvement company to trust on your home, right? For you to spend $1 of your hard-earned money when it comes time to do the project, what has to be important to you when you look at when you pick a company to do a project of this magnitude? What are those things that are important to you? And get them to give you a list, or at least one or two things, right? Because every presentation you do should be taking all the information you're giving and creating a presentation based around that, right? We talked about what do they have now? What do they enjoy? What do they want to alter or change, right? And then you design the solution, right? So we make sure, again, that we're putting ourselves in a position to succeed. So when we get into that company, we got to sell the company like we're the best thing ever on this earth. God himself put us down here to save homeowners from basically other home improvement companies. That's why we're here on this earth, is to save people from making bad mistakes. Save people from the utility bills and SDG&E doing a 28% gas hike, right? We got all these things we have to come into play. And we have to let them know and scare the hell out of them about the industry. So that way you're the number one reason that they want to move forward on the project, right? If you don't do a good job here, and you don't do a good job here on any type of appointments, then when you leave, they don't have that warm and fuzzy feeling, right? It's like if you're going to date somebody. Well, if I'm going to date somebody, what am I going to look at? What am I going to look at that's important before I'm going to date someone, right? If I don't find the things that are important that I need to find in a relationship before I date somebody, and I just go in and just randomly start dating people, don't know anything about them, I might go on a lot of dates before I find the right person. But if I know a little about what those expectations are, and I can start identifying and finding the right person or right company, that's a big deal. So I got to make sure, let's put it in simple terms, right? Because again, common sense is not common practice. So we got to figure out, and if we don't do a good enough job sharing with them about the industry and how we're different and why that's important to them, then we're not doing a good job. So it's more than just being in business 30 years, having 700 plus employees in 8 locations in 6 states, and number one remodeler from basically Better Business Bureau. That's all great and dandy, but why is that important to them? Right? Why is that important to them? Why is basically the fact that we have a lifetime warranty, why is that important to them? Why is the fact that we carry different product lines that we can make available to them, but we're only telling them that this product line right here is the one that they need and want for the home? How do we earn that credibility, right? So I want you to think about that, because selling the company right here is the difference between you getting shopped and not shopped. You want them, when they do, to feel like they found their car keys, right? I found my car keys, so I'm no longer going to look for my car keys because they're right here. Because everything I need is right here to get from point A to point B, right? Now, after I'm done, I need to ask that question, guys, are you 100% confident trusting Dreamstar Online with your project? Well, 100% we are. If they say right through here, well, I don't know, really, I'd need to think about that, I think. Well, let me ask you, what would you need to think about? Let me ask you, if I set price aside and price are no issue, is there any other reason besides price why you wouldn't feel 100% confident trusting Dreamstar Remodeling? No, just price. Well, great. Thank you. And that's 90% what it is. When people won't commit to that, it's about they don't know what the price is. So you have to tell them, hey, if I set the price aside real quick, is there any reason besides price why you wouldn't feel 100% confident trusting Dreamstar Remodeling with your home? No, not at all. Great. Well, let's go ahead and break out the window real quick. But before we do it, remember I just showed you right here, it said SDG&E says there's a 28% gas hike on utilities, right? If you don't at this point take something out and show them, whether it's on the price impressioning page you just used because you went through and did a great job price impressioning, or if it's just on a scrap piece of paper you pull out, you told me on average your utility bill was $400 a month. You said in here you lived here for 5 years, which is 60 months, right? If I take this, that means you've already paid $24,000 to heat and cool your house over the last 60 months, right? And unfortunately, there's nothing you're going to do about it. You might only be on this earth 5 years or 10 more years, or you might be in this house forever. It kind of goes. But, it's safe to say, when you do this window, there's no way we're going to get around that 28% gas hike that they've already proposed. It pretty much is a gospel, right? So if we did that just on basically that 28% gas hike, right? And I take $400 times 28%, that's add another $112 to that per month, right? So now instead of $400 at minimum over the next basically 3 to 5 years, I'm going to be paying at least $512 a month now, right? That's pretty crazy. If I take that number, I take that 512, say I'm only in a house another 60 months, that's going to be $30,720 you're paying just to heat and cool your house, right? If this is a forever house and I'd be in here another 120 months, aka 10 years, then that 512 times 120 is going to be $61,440 they're paying for their utilities, right? $61,440 you're paying for utilities. Now, no one's going to take care of 100% of that, but our average customer says basically they save anywhere from 25 to 40%. We're going to talk about that in a minute. I'm going to let you tell me what you feel like the savings would be. Okay? But based on that $61,440, are you happy knowing that you're going to be paying that over the next 120 months? Or the $30,720, because I'm going to use thousands here because I need it to hurt. Or the $30,720 over the next basically 60 months. Does that sound like, would you be happy by paying that amount of money over the next 120 months? Especially knowing that's $112 more, right? So that means literally to get the same amount of energy, living in the same situation you are right now where you're already not happy with your utility bill, over the next 60 months, you're paying another $6,720 just to heat and cool your house. No different than what you did in the last 12 months. That's not a very good feeling, right? So if I take that again over the next 120 months, I take $112 over the next 120 months, reduce the ridiculous. That's $13,440, which might even pay for your project. Just think about that alone, right? So even if your utility bill didn't go up and stayed the same, you'd be pretty happy with that, right? Can you see how your window, you're already paying for your windows no matter what you do right now, and it's not going to get better, it's only going to get worse? You got to get them excited, and you got to tie into some kind of pain, right? Even if you can't see it, there's no no basic distraction, there's no cracks in the stucco, there's nothing but it's utility savings. I have to find a way to make it hurt. If I can't find a way to make it hurt a little bit, it's a big deal. If they got solar, tell me about why you would even call. Why would you be here if there's solar? There's something about their life that is uncomfortable. right? Even though they got solar in the utility bill, they might get a payment back every year for the utilities. Why would they call you out if their windows were making them uncomfortable? Or if they were so comfortable they didn't deal with it, right? Even if you got that, say you're in a bedroom where the sun is beating down on your house day in and day out for long periods of time, and literally you can't sleep in your bedroom from the hours of, let's say, 1 to 6 because you work a night shift because you're a nurse, or you work a night shift because that's what you do for a living, and you can't sleep, or you can't even use a certain amount of room for that amount of time because it's so uncomfortable, even though your utility bill's not a problem. Really, people do windows, if you think about it, because they're uncomfortable. They're either uncomfortable by paying, $61,400 for the utilities, or basically they can't use certain rooms of their house over periods of time, or basically they're scared to death what's going to happen if they don't fix the cracks in the stucco because water's making it inside the house, or the dissatisfaction of having an $800 to $2,000 knee wall might be the reason they're doing it inside of there. Again, you got to find their why. As professionals, that's why we don't just able to take this MacBook, me create a video, and push play on it. But I guarantee you this video is pretty good. So again, if I push play on the video, what's going to be different from you being in the house compared to me being on a video inside their house talking about the same things? That's what you got to think of. It's job security, right? So think about what your pain point is up to this section, right? Then now when we break out the product, man, we should have a list, right? Infiltration, conduction, convection, solar heat gain. Whew! How are we going to take care of all that with the window? Man, I know that backside of your house with the sun getting kicked on it. When we talked about the window, the options that are available, we know vinyl is probably not a good option because the sun's beating the hell out of you in the back of the house, right? And if you couldn't do anything, you said at least you would start right there, correct? They said heat distortion rate of vinyl windows 121 degrees to 134 degrees, right? That's only 87 degrees of an outside temperature without any surface temperature. Surface temperature is like, when you walk around a swimming pool and you walk around barefoot, how you can barely stand on the concrete because it's so hot. Or you walk out to the ocean and you're standing on, basically you're standing on the sand and the sand gets so stinking hot. Think about this. You put aluminum foil over a baked potato. Isn't that designed to help it cook all the way through better? So if I got an aluminum window in my house and I got a aluminum and basically glass window inside my house, I have two of the best conductors known to man. Think about aluminum fence early in the morning, right? You got condensation and dew all over it. If I put back another aluminum window, is that going to solve the problem? No. Aluminum's a great conductor. No matter if it's thermally broken or not, it's still conducting heat or cold to the inside and the outside of the house. By the way, did you know your average house gives off 6 gallons of moisture a day? Cooking, cleaning, washing dishes, houseplants, humidifiers, each one of your bodies respirate and perspirate a gallon of moisture while you sleep. It's crazy. And that's all got to go somewhere. And if it doesn't get out of your house and can't breathe, it's getting trapped somewhere. Think about that. That's a lot of stuff, right? So again, if I'm not building enough pain and urgency in that appointment, I'm not doing a very good job. So I get down to the window. Now the window I show has to solve all these problems, right? It's got to have weather stripping. So we take care of that infiltration problem. It's got to basically, the conduction rate has to be less, right? So that way I take care of, shifting of frames or anything that might be happening with the house that's right through there, right? It's got to be able to outlast the sun because, again, we know that heat deflection is going to be a big deal on the outside of it, right? How do we take care of conduction? So when I break that glass pack presentation out, time out. If you don't do one here, you're really stupid because you don't know what you don't know and you just walked away from a deal. So again, the glass pack presentation through here, after you've done your glass pack presentation, show them how you're taking care of basically their solar heat gain coefficient, right? Or their solar heat gain that's coming in to bake their house. Not to mention the hot to cold transfer, which is where we talk about the argon gas staying inside of there from that hot to cold aspect. Not to mention the air filtration, so the dust on the seals, how we're taking care of that stuff. So we've actually solved off and checked the boxes on how we've taken care of infiltration, conduction, convection, solar heat gain. Can you see, John and Mary, with everything you have going on in your house, how the window system we shared, you've taken care of all those problems on the house? Great. Not to mention, we talked about the inspection and the installation process we are doing to take care of that. You know how that's addressing everything? Is there anything else you're looking for us to take care of in the window system that you call us out to take care of, or that you allowed us to come in here to talk about? So when it comes time, have we picked out the right colors, choices, different things that are important to you? Yes. So would you agree when it comes time, this is the window system you not only need to take care of all the stuff that we talked about, all the problems that we need to take care of? You agreed it's what you want too, right? Now let's show you how this window is going to save you money over time. Can we do that? then go real quick. And after your glass pack presentation, you should have asked, let me ask you a question. Our average customer says they save 25 to 40% off their utility bills. How much do you feel like you'd feel comfortable? You're going to hear at least probably 35 to 40%, right? Maybe 30%. So if you take that number, even that 61 grand, you save just 25% of that, we're trying to show them how this pays for itself, right? So if you got 61,440, and I save 25% of that, that's $15,360 worth of utility savings, right? And say my project is, just say 23 grand, okay? If I take 23,000 by cost versus value, they tell you you're going to get about 83 to 86% cost recouped, right? So if I take that just by 70%, which just being a conservative number, that's another $16,100 basically back as far as resale value, right? So if I had my resale value plus basically my energy savings, that's $31,460. And that's not counting if they've ever had to replace a piece of broken glass, right? This costs them $150 to $300 a piece for each piece of broken thermal pane they've had to actually maybe replace their glass with, not counting the glazing bead or any of the extra silicone or anything like that that's had to go onto it. That could all be put back in there too as an ROI savings on maintenance cost, right? Or maintenance savings. Because if one of them failed, generally all those glass packs are going to fail. And what would be the cost to do that? And if it only lasts 4 or 5 years before they have to do it again, are they ever done paying for that window? So again, what you see is Einstein's definition of insanity is repeating the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. If there's no different result and you haven't fixed the problem or even addressed the fundamental reasons on why there's a problem there, then all you're doing is putting a Band-Aid on it. I tell you what, every time you spend anywhere from $200 to $600 a window just to put a Band-Aid on it, you probably already bought your new windows or have a big chunk to go towards that new windows, right? So if I take on average that $23,000 price tag and I add my utility savings and my energy savings up alone, that means that's $31,460 basically that they're recouping by energy savings and resale value alone. If I subtract that by 23 grand, means over the course of 120 months, they put $8,460 back in their pocket from resale value in that alone. If I divide that out by the same 120 months, that's about $70.50 a month that they're putting back in their pocket every month after they have the windows put in over a long period of time. Let me ask you, John and Mary, can you see how these windows will eventually pay for themselves? Yes. So it sounds like to me, you already know the windows are costing you money. And you know that basically found the right solution for your problems. Basically, when it comes time to do it, you found the right window system you want. You're 100% confident, trust in Dream Style Remodeling. And not to mention, basically, we know we got to get something down this window, if not now, sometime in the future. And it sounds like to me, the only reason we wouldn't be moving forward today is strictly based on price or payment. Is that fair enough to say? Well, I don't know if I can afford it. I got you. And if you can't, it's fine. We could shake hands and part friends. But if we were able to fit something in your basically repertoire that's affordable, whether it be price or payment, wouldn't that be the only reason you wouldn't get started on it? Especially even those windows in the back we talked about were the worst. Because time out, if I walk into a proximity house and I'm showing a $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 order, and I don't at least have a starter package together, or I'm basically, they weren't even thinking about doing windows, now I'm dropping a $70,000 price tag on them the same day, you're not going to get that. That's putting yourself in a position to fail. Start with the worst first. Why not mark your territory? You know, a dog walks by basically a fire hydrant, pees on the fire hydrant to mark his territory. You need to do the same thing with windows. We got to get a window inside that house to mark our territory. It's way easier to go back once we got a couple windows in that house than it is basically going back. And having that customer you can go back and see every basically 6 months to a year and keep adding more windows on is going to be pretty damn beneficial. Now, if you read the people that are whales, that basically might be in a position where they can pay cash for a project at $60,000, $70,000, maybe you go at it. But I know myself, if I'm in this project, I'm going to figure out where the sweet spot is and what they can afford per month, and I'm going to base it up or down from there. So if I know that the back of the house, the front of the house were the two main priorities, I'm probably going to start there with my first investment, and then I'll show them what it is to do the whole thing once they pry it out of me. But right now, I don't want them thinking 70 grand. I want them thinking about the project they're doing at hand. And if their biggest source of pain is in the front of the house, the back of the house, I can still do an energy audit. I said, now you might not save this full amount because we're not doing everything, but if at least we can save a partial of that, say if it's only instead of $70.56 back in your pocket a month, say it's only 40. Would you still be happy? Yeah, we would. Great. Now you see that type of people, if you're going to start something, you plan on finishing it, right? So again, what I'm saying this for, don't set yourself up for failure before you start. If the first price comes out is more than they're capable of spending, and they've never thought about doing this project ever in their life, unless they're pushing you for the whole house, don't let it. Because they're fighting you about cost all the way through, and the first price you show is for the whole house, and it's beyond their financial capability, you didn't set yourself up for success, you set yourself up for failure. Because remember, they're 6 months to a year to 2 years out for a reason. So you got to, again, remember, you are like playing chess right now. You got to always be a step or two ahead of them, not basically be pushing your selfish agenda on them. That's why that's so important. So again, we get down to the end of it, and we basically get ready to show that price. We need to romance this thing like we've never romanced anything before in our entire life. We're getting ready to ask the hot guy or gal basically that we want to marry, that we've wanted to marry forever, and we're scared to death. Maybe they're on the edge and we want to do it. We need to sell them all the reasons, all the good experiences, all the bad experiences, everything we're doing to correct all those experiences, right? We need to romance the hell out of this thing. So, John, I remember earlier we talked about the back, how it was the UV rays are coming in and fading that up and tearing your carpet and bed up, which is going to cost you thousands of dollars just to replace what was already inside of there because the windows aren't doing what they need to be doing, right? We talked about the air leaking in and the dust we found on the seals, right? And how that every time that furnace and air conditioner turned on and off, it was costing you a ton of money. Not to mention, we talked about the glass ice water and the coffee. Remember how we talked about losing all your heats going outside the window? There's no way we could turn the air conditioner down or up enough to make a difference inside the house, right? So remember we talked about, again, the heat coming in directly from those windows and how we needed to take care of that problem and those challenges we're going through there. So great, let's go ahead and make sure we got everything covered. But we need to remember the reasons why we were doing the project in the first place, right? So again, remember we talked about the basically Duracast framing, what we call our impervial windows, was going to take care of and be able to withstand that heat from the outside of it. We talked about that needed to be San Diego reflashed because, again, the old aluminum frames weren't doing what they needed to be doing. So just to shove a Band-Aid over top of, wasn't a great deal. We did talk about basically the sun defense glass, how that number one had the 90% argon, 10% nitrogen fill to stop that hot to cold transfer from coming in. We did talk about the sun beating directly from the outdoors coming onto it, how we're reflecting the heat away rather than coming in. And you said it to yourself that you felt like you'd save anywhere between 30 to 35%. And even at 25, we can see how that project's going to pay for itself, right? So we took a look at all those things in there. Did we cover everything that was important to you, including the weather stripping we use around the window to stop that dust from coming in, to help prevent your furnace and air conditioner from getting wear and tear and burning out so you don't have to spend another, $15,000 to $30,000 on that thing too, on top of the windows? Some people never get ahead because they don't try to get ahead, right? So when you look at this thing, besides price or payment, is there any reason why besides price or payment, we couldn't go ahead and earn your business today? No, just about price or payment. Thanks, guys. Appreciate that. So again, now we hold the value to do the entire project on your house. Would you call us out today to take care of, to take a look at, or invited us in here to take a look at for when it did come time? Not to mention we found on the inspection. Can you see with everything we have to do to accomplish and change, the current situation of the house and fix it? Can you see why you hold 23 or 31,346 is a good value to take care of the project on your own? Now, we're not asking you to pay that. Thank you for sharing. It's worth it. Thank you, John, Mary. Thanks for sharing. It worth it, right? It's a big price tag, but you can see it's a lot more work than you were expecting to have happen on the house today, right? And if it's a lot more work than you expect to have happen on the house today, then I'm sure you can see why the investment is what the investment is. Would you agree with that? Yes, yes. Now, obviously, you didn't call me out today to basically buy anything. I know today was a surprise, so obviously we're not asking you to pay that list price because we're able to put a little incentives in place. Remember I showed you earlier, we did have that coupon that was buy one, get one 40% off, which is 20%. I happen to still have on my computer, and unfortunately, this is a very time-sensitive matter, but basically it's our anniversary sale. It saves 25% off, guys. That's not 20 like the buy one, get one 40, 25% straight out the bottom because it was our 30th year anniversary just last month. It's pretty big, right? So that's going to save you a total of, $6,436 off the work, taking the total investment down to only $23,341. Okay, and more of our savvy customers, most people, matter of fact, take advantage of open an account at 60 months at $445 a month. Let me ask you, how does that $445 a month fit in the budget? I'm not even talking about the same as cash. If they see it and read it on the bottom of it, great. How does that $445 a month fit in the budget? Well, it does and it doesn't. Well, let me explain to you what, if it doesn't, what does fit in the budget? 375, 400. You need to fight your tail off for all the PG followers out there. You need to fight your tail off, making sure that you fight for that payment. You need to sell that payment like it's the only offering you have. And it's the last appointment you had to feed your family for the next 2 weeks. Fight your tail off there on that payment and figure out what's affordable. If they told you nothing besides price or payment and you're trying to sell the price, you're an idiot. Remember, they're 6 months to 2 years out. You're an idiot because you do know what you don't know. That means you're not listening to the customer and you're selling because you're not practicing enough to realize the situation, environment, and condition you're in. So remember, sell that payment. They don't have a stack of cash setting aside. It's like, did you realize 9 out of 10 roofs done are all done by insurance money? Because half the time they're done on accident because there's a leak or something that's beyond what they do, and they don't have the money to afford that. So we got to look at the reasons why they're buying windows in the first place. What's the reasons why they're basically buying a roof? Because it's something they weren't planning on buying. So again, if you think they got a stack of cash saved up to pay for it, you're wrong. So again, you got to make sure you put them in a position to succeed, not fail. So we've got to pay attention to how we're presenting that investment. I tell you, if you sell the payment, you will be successful on basic proximity appointments more than not. If you did what I just showed you through there, you will be successful more than you will not on basic proximity appointments. If you do what I did there, you will close those things at about a 38 to 45% clip. Because again, remember, they don't have competition. You're not going up against competition. Your competition is yourself and doing nothing at all, right? Secondly, they do make spur of the moment decisions. An 18-year-old or a 20-year-old or a 25-year-old that is not more talented than you got you in the house. Somebody at a fair walking by was able to talk somebody into allowing you to get into the house. Think about that. So again, it's your job in there to create the need, create the urgency, not put your foot in your mouth up front by telling the things that you don't need to be talking about anyways. You're not buying it. Great. They told me that on the phone. Not a big deal. They told me you're just trying to get an idea of what it costs when it does come time, right? If you don't light their butt on the fire like we did during the inspection, then you're not going to be successful. If I don't do an energy audit and make it make sense and show them how they're already paying for their window, nothing else matters. Now, after I sell them on the payments, let me ask you, what would be affordable? Would it be $275, $300? What might be more affordable? And I get them to commit, and I do my give to get, and I earn the business. Now, remember, they just sign an order form for, could be $5,000, could be $10,000, could be $20,000, could be $30,000. If you take the money and run, which I think was a song from basically Steve Miller Band way back in the day, right? If you take the money and run, your cancellation is going to beat you to the door. I repeat that. Your cancellation will beat you to the door because the very reason they bought left once you got the freaking order. And that is ignorant. You have to warm down with these people. Not just while you're doing the paperwork. After you get done, you got to take them off that emotional mountain. They're on an emotional high. You got them so energized and so charged up right now that their emotion's on high. Once you leave, that emotion comes down and logic kicks back in and says, holy crap, we just spent 20 grand. That's $300 a month when we can barely afford to pay our diapers or buy our diapers, buy that stuff, right? So again, if you don't take them off the mountain and make yourself a real person again before you leave, I'm not talking about just all about the windows and rate a great decision they made. You do that while you're finishing up the paperwork, take them back down around the windows, help them put the stickers back on the windows with you, remind about how beautiful these things are going to be as you're putting the stickers on. By the way, you should do that. Take them around with you and put the stickers on it. So that way they feel how important and understand and get excited about the windows. Then after you set back down for a few minutes, then just get back down to being real. Talk about family, occupation, recreation, what's going on this weekend? What do you got going on for Mother's Day, right? What do you got going on next month for Father's Day? You know, is there anything big you guys got planned? What do you guys do for fun here? What do you like to eat? You know, all that bull crap that really you might not care about, but is important to give when you're basically warming down. Because maybe you did create a real connection. Maybe you really do care about them and love them, right? You should. They're your customers. You got to take care of them. So again, today at the end, and after we warm down for it, then the next thing you do when you get back is create a thank you card. Send a thank you card out that's going to be there within a day or two. Drive down the freaking post office, write one out that's handwritten out that thanks them for the business, and put that damn thing in an envelope, and basically postmark it at the closest post office you can get, and then put it in there so they receive that the day after today. And once they have that, they open it up. Now any hesitation and doubt they have is boom. Oh, wow, look, they sent this thank you card. How nice is that? Or the next morning when they wake up at about 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, hey, I just want to call you guys, tell you what a great time I had yesterday. Remember, beat them to the phone call. If you didn't call already by 10 o'clock this morning, you had to sell yesterday, you're too late. Call and thank them. John and Mary, hey, just wanted to call and thank you guys last night for the experience. It's fantastic, right? I know sometimes people sleep, they have some questions the next morning because we did cover a lot of information. What questions do you have? No, we're great. We're so excited to get the windows, we can't take it. Great. If you think anything, you do have my cell phone number, and this is it I'm calling you from. No, we're great. Well, guys, hey, thank you so much for trusting Dreams Time Molly. I know you're going to love it. Remember, after it's done, I'm going to pick up those referrals from you, right? Cool. Can't wait to see you at the install. Have a great day, guys. Click. That easy. That's proximity. That's events. Every lead sucks till you make it good. And again, if you follow that same situation, you can do that on every single appointment. Not just proximity events. You can do that on every single appointment. And I promise you, you're going to taste lots of success. With that said, we're at our 9 o'clock mark. If anyone's got one or two questions they want to ask, go ahead and you can unmute yourself and ask, or anybody in the room can ask too. But if there's no questions, then I'm going to go ahead and sign off. So I'll give you guys a minute or two. If you have any questions or concerns about anything that we just went over, go ahead and I'll let you guys ask.
What does it feel like when you give us all of this amazing information and you know that we're all sitting here super hyped up to go sell stuff?
It makes me super happy to know that you're going to use it.
Hell yeah. No, man, I'm fired up. Shut up. I'm signing off.
All right. Sweet. Thanks, Jeremy. Cynthia, do you have anything? I saw you unmute yours.
Yeah. I was just wondering, can you go over just really, really briefly again about how to cover the cost savings program at the beginning? I know you did go over it and it was really good, and I can probably rewind it and listen to it again, but I think that just from the presentations I've been on, I feel like that's almost the most essential moment of the sale, and especially if these proximity appointments where people are like, oh, I just wanted an estimate, and that's in their mind. The entire presentation is like, well, we're just getting an estimate, blah, blah, blah. Like if we can let them know right up front that this really sweet.
Let me cover that real quick, Cynthia. Okay. So remember in the very beginning, after we're done warming up, right, and getting them to be a real person, then we tell them, hey, just so guys let you know, our average customer calls us off the television, off the newspaper, off the direct mail pieces like you get in your mailbox. And most people are already to move forward on the first day, right? Even though we realize they told us on the lead that you're not ready to buy anything today. You're just ready to get an estimate for when it does come time. Basically, we give you guys the same opportunity we give all our traditional media customers too. Now, whether you choose to take advantage or not, that's your choice. But let me explain to you what three prices we're going to give you today. And if you choose to take advantage, choose not to take advantage, that's your choice, right? And then you roll into your cost savings program. But you set it up and let them know that most of our customers do move forward on the same day. But we're going to give them the same opportunity that we give all of our other customers too, just to make it sound like we're not putting them in a position where they have to make a decision. We're giving them the opportunity, the choice where they can. And if they still tell you, well, we're not buying anything today, you ignore that because you haven't done anything yet to create the urgency and the need to earn their business yet. So again, you're just taking them and sharing with them what their opportunity is. If you don't give them that opportunity off start, you're not being fair to them, and you're not giving them the opportunity to say yes at the end of it. you're making them fight you and put their guard up again. So they're figuring out a way to tell you no the entire presentation rather than to disengage them, put their guard down, and leave them open to learn that information. Is that helpful?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And then you just start with a starter package, most likely.
I would go to depending on what I feel like their financial capability is during the inspection.
Yeah.
You'll kind of know.
Mm-hmm.
You'll tailor it to what you feel like you're going to get.
Yeah.
Not necessarily what you think you might want.
Okay.
So if I know automatically they're showing me their worst windows first, but I talk myself into measuring the whole house, I know for a fact if they're grimacing and I'm throwing some price impressioning out and I'm watching their body language, I know probably it wouldn't be to my best interest to show the whole house. It might be to my best interest to start with half the house or a quarter of the house or the worst first.
Right.
Again, I got to set myself up for success by knowing that way, other than basically putting myself in a position where they're going to give me an instant no and then they're shutting down on me.
Right. Gotcha. Thank you.
Cool. Anybody else?
Hey, Dustin, quick question. Are there any pre-printed Dream Style thank you cards with our logo on them that I can buy?
I don't think so yet. Actually, you reminded me, I'll talk to Miles right after the appointments. And you know what?
Corey.
Right now, hold on. I already know where you're going to be, JC, with that. I got you.
They're coming in today.
So if you're going to do that, mute. But if you're going to say something else, you can keep it on. So the other purpose is, Mike, what I would do for the time being is just go down to Walgreens or Rite Aid and go grab a pack of that. I think like $2-3, you grab a pack of them. It'll be the best investment you ever made. And
okay, great. Thank you.
Go buy some basically stamps. I think I used to send personal ones rather than the company ones because it looked like it was coming straight from me, not from the company. So
Gotcha.
it looked a little more personable too.
Do you suggest also sending thank you cards to people that we just had an appointment with but didn't buy?
100% yes. I used to do that same thing, Cynthia. That is a great touch. And you might have said if they would not move forward and they saw 3 other people, if you were the only person that sent a thank you card, that might be the touch of professionalism they're looking for to get them to move over the top.
Right.
Good question. Anybody else? All right. With that, guys, JC, I saw you unmute. Did you have something?
I just wanted to, you went through the number piece super quick. I don't want to take time. I just wanted to kind of get a big picture on that because you just went by really fast. So you're just totaling their bill, multiplying it by however long they've lived there, and then dividing by.
You're taking the current bill they commit that they pay. And then I show them how long they've lived in the house and how much money they've already spent, and they can't do anything about that. That's money they've already lost and could do nothing about. So $24,000, if it's $400 and they told me they've already lived in the house 5 years, well, I convert that, that's 60 months, right? So if I take 400 times 60, that's $24,000 they've already spent, basically just by heating and cooling their house. How does that make you feel knowing you haven't been able to do anything about that so far? SDG&E, if you take that 28% gas hike page on the keynote, tells you that, if you pay 28% more than 400, that means at minimum you'd be paying $512 a month, saying that it went up no more than that. And we know SDG&E, after this set of 5 years, is going to set another 5-year hike. So you never know really it's going to be. But take that worst case scenario, our best case scenario, $512. If I take 400 times basically 28%, that's another $112 I'm adding on to the 400. So that means their total utility bill after the 28% hike would be $512. Now say that they're only going to live in their house another 5 years. Well, I can take that number by 60 months, and that's going to be $3,720. If I run into the great case that they're never moving out of their house and it's a forever home, I can double that and make it by 10 years, which is 120 months. So that if I do it by 120 months, that $512 now is $61,440, which is going to look a lot better when I'm basically showing utility savings and my resale, I'm making me at a positive gain, which means that after I subtract my utility savings of $15,360 off of my 10 years, so if I take $61,440, JC, times 25%, that's $15,360 worth of utility savings. If I take my resale value, once I figure out what my value is going to be, say it's 23 grand, then my resale value at not 83 to 86%, at just 70% because I'm keeping it conservative is $16,100. So now if I add the $15,360 plus $16,100 for resale value, that means my total net value of my resale value and my utility savings is $31,600 or $31,460. Now all I simply do at my 30-day price or my coupon price is I take that $31,460, I subtract that by my $23,000, say that's what my value of my project is. That puts me at a net gain of $8,460. That means I put back in their pocket $8,460 after paying for the project, counting their utility savings and the resale value. Now, if I divide that number out, I want to reduce to the ridiculous. I can divide that number out by 120, which is the same amount of months that I times to get my utility savings. It tells me that their net gain is $70.56 a month, reduced off their utilities or added value back towards their home over the course of the rest of the time they live in their house. So as you're going to live in there longer than 120 months, that value is going to get bigger. If you save more money on utilities, that value is going to get bigger. If you get more money back on your resale value, that value only gets bigger. Can you see how this project's going to pay for itself? That's the purpose of doing it. It helps them realize that it's not just money they spend that they don't get anything back in return. Because JC, do you know what the difference is between paying something and an investment? An investment is something that pays you back over time or keeps making money over time. A payment is something you pay once and you never get back. This is the gift that keeps giving. Windows are not something you pay once and you never see back again. Now, if you do the project wrong, you're probably in that position where you pay it once and you never get it back again. But in the avenue we're sharing you where we solve the problems and solutions on your house, can you see how this takes care of itself? That helpful?
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. All right, and I've got this recorded, so I'll mail this out, but just like anything, an amateur practice get it right, a professional practice can't get it wrong. Mr. Doherty sent me a quote, which I'll put on the string tomorrow, I thought was perfect. It said this. It says, making money boils down to one thing, knowing how to sell. If you know how to sell, you'll always have a job and your income is limitless. So again, think about, I think that is Zig. Yeah. Think about basically everything we just went over and think about how well am I doing it, right? Am I doing it? Have I mastered it? And number three, do my results prove that I mastered it? With that, guys, I'm signing off. Have an awesome day. Think about the next time you walk on that proximity event department. You've got a bag of tools now to use, but you got to practice. An amateur practice, get it right. A professional practice can't get it wrong, right? In an appointment, it's not the elephants that bite, it's mosquitoes. So let's focus on basically crushing the mosquitoes and moving them out of the way. So that way at the end of it, it's nothing besides making it make sense with the money. Have a good day, guys.